Okay, so following on from the last part of the tutorial, we're creating this PayPal items function. Now this is probably the most complicated function because it ties in with this function here. So we're basically calling this function inside our cart function. Now the reason for this is we've created a standard checkout button, but the PayPal items is going to list individual input fields for each item that we have in our cart. And the reason it does this is we're going to create it to make it look a bit nicer when we're dealing with PayPal. So we're going to come back up to our PayPal items function, and the first thing we're going to do is create a variable called num, and that's going to be equal to zero. You'll see what that basically is for in a moment. Okay, so we're going to basically recreate the way we listed our items. Let me just show you. List our items here by using a for each loop. So we're going to say for each $_session as name, and exactly the same thing with the value. And then we're going to open up our curly brackets. Now I know I'm repeating code, so I could have come up with a better way to not repeat all this code again, but I'm basically purely doing it for teaching purposes. We're going to go through it again, and perhaps for some of you it will make it a bit clearer, and I hope so. So for each, what we're going to say now is if value doesn't equal 0, we're going to do something here, and again we're going to say if substring of name, which is this here, remember the name, which is something like cart 1 or cart 2, so the number is x. If the substring of name, and that is 0 and 5, so we're taking the first 5 characters, is equal to cart, then we do something here. So we're just checking for each session which starts with cart underscore. What we're then going to do is set our ID again, which is substring. And remember what we did before, we said name, and we started from 5, which is the end of the underscore here, and then we did string length of the name minus 5, which took into account numbers that are bigger in sort of the tens and the hundreds and thousands, if you like. So we've created the ID variable, and we can just test that now quickly. So I'm going to say echo ID, and I'm going to put a break after that. Okay, so let's just come in and test this. Now we won't see anything. Oh, in fact we will. The reason we will is because we haven't created them as input fields. So at the moment you can see that this has worked. We've got a 2 and a 1. That's item 2 and item 1. Remember, in our database we've got 1 and 2. 2 and 1, doesn't matter which way around they are, they're all going to be calculated the same. So the code so far works. The next thing we need to do is we need to create our MySQL query, and this query is select ID, name, price. Now we're taking into account the shipping, because obviously PayPal needs to calculate the shipping, and then from product, where ID equals, and again we're going to concatenate on ID, but we want to make this a bit safer, so MySQL fetch associative real escape string of ID, and we're going to make sure this is an integer variable so we don't have any SQL injection happening. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to loop through exactly the same as we did before. So while get row equals MySQL fetch associative array of get, so we're fetching an array of the returned rows of our query. And inside this, now what we need to do, the first thing we're doing is num++. Now I'm going to explain this num variable. Firstly, put a $sign on the end. Now the num variable in PayPal, when you create each individual input field, which we're going to do here, each cart item requires a number, so we're going to number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah blah blah, regardless of the number in the database. This is just what PayPal requires, basically what PayPal requires to operate this shopping cart scheme or shopping cart method. So I'm going to echo num and ID. In between that, I'm going to pop a break, in fact a space, and then a break on the end. So this should be equal sort of 0, 1, 2, blah blah blah. Oh no, this should be 1 and then our ID, and then the second time around this will be 2 and then our ID. So let's just check that. Okay, so we've got 1 and 2, 2 and 1. So hopefully that makes sense. Before this we started off with 2 and 1. Now this 1 here is the num variable, and this 2 here is the num variable, and these are the IDs of each thing. So PayPal is going to say, well, item 1 is 2, which is the T. So the first item, so the first item is the T, the second item is the book. That's as simple as I can probably explain it. But this requires special input fields. So the first input type is the input field is the input number. So I'm going to echo, let me just show you in here what we need. So we've got item underscore number underscore x. So x is each item number. So I'm going to say input type equals, and this is hidden like all of our other here, and the name equals item number underscore, and then we want to concatenate. That gets confusing. And then here we want to concatenate num. Okay, simple as that. Now what we're going to do is we need to add the value. So value equals ID. Okay, so now we've created this input type hidden. This is the first requirement. So we've got item number X. So item number 1, the value, the item number is basically the ID of each item. Very confusing, but you'll see what I mean in a moment. So, okay. Let's have a look for that. Okay, yeah. That needs to go there, concatenate on. So let's refresh. Okay, so let's just view the page source of this. And let's come down. Okay, so input type equals hidden. Item number 1 equals 2. Item number 2 equals 1. Remember, we saw that before. This is basically saying we've got the first item is ID of 2, and the second item is ID of 1, and these are the database items. Now we're going to go through and create all the others that are required. The next one that I'm going to do is the item name. So this is pretty straightforward. I'm going to say echo input type equals hidden, name equals item name underscore, and then what we do is we concatenate on num again. So we're keeping in line with this. This will be 1, this will be 1, then this will be 2, and this will be 2. But now after this we can add our individual item names. So this is going to be value equals, and again concatenate on the item name, which is get row name. Okay, so let's go back and refresh this and view the source. Okay, so we've got item number 1 value 2, item name 1 equals T. Item number 2 is the ID of 1, and item name 2 is book. So we're basically adding each one on. So this is basically how PayPal operates. So It's perhaps a long task to do all this, but it has to be done. So now we're going to say input type hidden, name equals, the next one we need to do is the price, which is basically amount, which is price of the item. So amount underscore, and then again, you guessed it, we concatenate num on, and value equals, and then we concatenate get, get row. Have we done this properly? Nope. Get row price. Okay. Then we go down, input type equals hidden, name equals what's the next one? Shipping. Shipping underscore, again concatenate num, value equals get get row shipping. So we've added shipping as well, that's just here. Shipping to is the cost of shipping each additional piece. So you can either specify this inside the database and then add it in by saying get row and your own thing. So by now you should be able to know how to add your extra shipping sort of field in and say for each additional item. But what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to copy this line, paste that in and say shipping to, and then have it exactly the same. So if I was to purchase 2 lots of tea and the shipping is $2.99, this would just be doubled. So we're not adding, you know, each additional piece in. And last but definitely not least, we need to add the quantity of the item. So this is probably the most important, because if people want a double quantity, they won't get it unless you add this in. So quantity underscore and then num, and the value of this is value. We've just literally called it value, and the reason is for this here, we've called this value, which is the session value, and that's in there. So let's concatenate that on there. Okay, so now let's just refresh, not our database. So click on this, back to there for future. Get rid of the source, refresh and see what happens. Okay, so if we check in our page source, we've got, you can see we've got here shipping 2 is $2.99, shipping 1 $2.99, quantity is 1. So let's check that's right. Quantity 1 of tea, okay, and shipping 2, quantity 2 is 1. So quantity 2 is the book, I think, or the tea, and quantity 1 is either one of them. So if I get rid of this source and I say add 2 quantities of tea and 5 quantities for the book, now if I refresh, you can see quantity 1 has changed to 2 and quantity 2 has changed to 5. So everything's been updated in our favour we need to do. Now when we click on PayPal checkout, we'll wait for the PayPal page to load, and all our items are being processed through. We've got tea, quantity 2, so the item price is $6.50, so that's calculated this as £13. Book, they're $3.99, so quantity 5 has calculated this as $19.95. Items total is $32.95, these two added together, and the postage and packaging comes to £15.93. So we've added on each piece of shipping, you know, for each quantity we've got. So this is the way that's basically worked. Your customer can now pay by PayPal. You'll receive this information, so you'll know exactly what items to send to them, and we don't have to program that. We can leave that entirely up to PayPal, and it's really nice for your user to be able to see this as well, so they don't get confused as to what they've ordered. Okay, so that's basically the mini shopping cart complete. Completely works as I've programmed it here. I may have made some mistakes as I'm going along. The code is quite complicated, but it's really, really compact as well. And to use that little code to create something as easy to use and as dynamic as this, and that checks straight out with PayPal, adds all the items in for you, is actually really good. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. If you do have any problems, please go on to phpacademy.org, click the forum button, or you can go straight to phpacademy.org/forum. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and remember, PHP Academy is also on Facebook and Twitter. Just visit phpacademy.org for more information. Thanks again, and good luck with creating this yourself.